This is delightful. I'm so glad we came here. Feel those vibrations at Camp Video Games. Well, hello there, camper. Welcome back to Camp Video Games. This is your junior counselor, Sean, joined, as always, by junior counselor, Josh.
Hello, campers. Welcome back to another delightful day around the campfire, telling stories of R-wings and foxes and toads in space.
That's right. We are talking about Star Fox. Specifically, the Super Nintendo premiere, the premier jouet au video.
The first time the world met Fox McCloud, a.k.a. Star Fox.
Don't call me Star Fox. So last week we talked about A Fox in Space, the brilliant first episode of what should be a three-part series, fan-made animated Star Fox cartoon. If you didn't catch that one, please give it a listen. It is a delightful indie project that is still in production for episode 3. Episode 2 launched just a little bit ago, and yeah, we want to support that project very much, and its creator, Matt Gafford, who has done some really cool stuff for the Star Fox community.
Can a fandom of game be a community, especially a one as small as Star Fox?
I mean, Star Fox is still a pretty big deal for Nintendo. It's like, I wouldn't say it's a flagship, it's like a
B tier
franchise.
Flagship.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Star Fox and Kirby are sort of their B tier,
Good way of putting it. Yeah. What else does Nintendo have B tier stuff? Like,
I don't know.
like F-Zero. Like, I'm just thinking of all the Smash characters that you're just like, yeah, I guess we'll keep them in too. Like, even though they haven't had a game in ages, we'll keep putting them in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
But
if it's in Smash, it's a Nintendo B tier. If it's not in the top row of Smash,
yeah.
Fire Emblem, that whole row of Fire Emblem characters.
Did you see the newish Super Mario Brothers movie?
No, not the movie.
What were you saying yes to, like Odyssey?
Mario Wonder trailers have been sneaking out since as we record this episode.
I haven't seen it. What's the big development with that? What are they? What's the new spiel?
It's a whole lot. The only thing I'll say about it, because we don't want to get too sidetracked, is development wise, they were told, "Hey guys, no deadline. Make a fun 2D Mario."
Cool.
And that's really all that matters. And you can turn into elephants, I guess, is the thing they're saying.
Okay. Star Fox. We got animals piloting space jets, shooting lasers. Star Fox is for me. It was one of the first on rails shooters that I remember playing. Which, if you're not familiar with that style of game, it's where you have some freedom of motion, but you are on a predetermined path, thus on rails. It's like you're a cameraman on a dolly, and it's taking you to the next shot, basically. What these types of games really offer in terms of like replayability is just getting a better score. It's one of those score-based games where at the end of every level it'll tell you how well you did, and that shit gets me going. I gotta get perfect scores. Like it's a compulsion. Star Fox.
Yeah. I feel that way probably about when we get to Star Fox 64. This one was more about, for me, just finish. Just get to the finish line.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that in detail as we go.
Right. It's, I guess, the main draw for Star Fox when it released was its, like, graphics. It's, like, technical prowess. I just know when it came out, and I didn't have a Super Nintendo at the time, but my friends did. I thought as I saw this game, I was like, graphics are never going to get better than this. Like, this is the pinnacle. We got polygons. We got some.
Yeah.
It was just so impressive for the time. But
Yeah.
did you do much research into the actual like production of this game? Do you want to get into that before we start talking about gameplay?
Mildly. I mean, I could speak a little bit to that. Is that the original hardware cartridge of the game? As like people of our generation will know, there was the Super FX chip.
That's right.
And
Mode 7.
oh, I'm popping up in the video.
Cool. No, show them.
that's
Show
on
them.
this
Show them
video.
those beautiful graphics.
Yeah.
It'll never get better.
So our capture footage is from my stream of the game where I take notes for anybody watching the video version of the podcast.
That's right. We have video component that is a whole different show basically. If you check us out on YouTube, but for our audio listeners, we'll try to be as descriptive as possible. So it's not just like you're like listening in from another room of two people playing video games.
Yeah, there's nothing major you're gonna miss. It's just I was just noting because my face pops up occasionally in the video that we're using as our footage.
Oh, look at that sweet face.
So anyways,
Give him a follow at Carl's Manager.
yeah, Carl's Manager is where you find that. But yeah, so this game used the Super FX chip, which was able to do actual like wireframe polygonal renders of assets, objects in game on a system that was not designed to do so. And when they advertised the game, they didn't explain any of that. They're just like, it's 3D Super FX chip, dog.
Yeah. The developer that Nintendo kind of like brought in to work on the project, I believe it's called Argonaut Studio. Argonaut, that always stuck out just because Jason and the Argonauts is one of my favorite movies. But apparently it was like the guy who coded the game, or like that was like responsible for the graphic. He was 18 years old, straight out of the UK. They moved him to Japan.
Yeah, well, a handful of these guys were 17, 18-ish, and not much older. If you see the credits, I think most of the English names are guys that are like, were probably no older than 22-ish at the time.
God.
And my understanding of the relationship was Argonaut this was kind of their thing, was they were like, 3D's the next big thing. We're going to figure out how to do this sort of like wireframe, polygon-based 3D gaming on basically pretty junky, but like felt state-of-the-art, because that's where all the games were coming out, like at the time, systems. So when Nintendo caught wind of their ability to do this, they were like, let's see if we can figure out a game.
Well, what Argonaut did was they made a proof of concept basically on a modded Game Boy cartridge for Tetris. So they were able to reverse engineer Nintendo hardware and create their own program, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a computer person, but they were able to make this game, and then like they showed it to Nintendo on this like bootleg Tetris cartridge, which is just like they pulled the graphics off for Game Boy, which has so much less processing power than the Super Nintendo even. So they could have translated the basic gameplay of Star Fox to the Game Boy back in that day, in like 1990. At that point, it's wild that their accomplishment, it's a really big landmark for gaming.
Yeah. And it does have a lot of cool elements to the 3D. It was eye-popping in the moment, but there's a lot of things that didn't help hold up quite so well. So I would just say, bottom line review, great tech demo for Star Fox 64.
Yeah. For sure. And go ahead.
And then the Nintendo touch of the characterization and the world building helps it stand out from like just another wireframe polygonal rail shooter. This is like just me remembering from like shareware games my grandpa had on floppy disks.
Yeah.
People were attempting this style of development in really cheap small studios at the time. And Nintendo just putting their little touch of we've built some characters and a world around it, and then a little bit of polish. I'll say, especially like in the sound design, helps this game a lot. Is what made it so that this one can stand out a little more as like, oh, this is the move to 3D.
Sure. And it was a good move. I mean, the major criticism modern gamers have with Star Fox is the slowdown.
Oh my God.
The lag for controls. Yeah, especially with such a it's a precision-based game, right? Where timing and finesse is everything. And when you are fighting against the frame rate, it does make it seem almost like a futile. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why do I have to do such precise things with input lag?
Yeah,
you know?
this is why I'm like, this is more of a tech demo. This is like what it can do, because I'm sure there are like fantastic speedrunners of this game who can like just ace it, but it's not because they are like finessing the playthrough, or like they're just really good at. It's like they probably had to memorize.
Yes.
We drop frames here, and you have to do your input to make sure you make it here, like on this frame, because if you try to just keep moving smoothly, you're gonna lose inputs because of the lag, and it's just like,
just kind of, if we're talking about the controls in a more freeform way, I noticed one of the smoothest running levels in the game is Venom, where they like, for some reason the Corneria is so loaded with assets that it's just like you know, you're having a really hard time getting through the very first level of the game, but then you get to the last level and it's just like it's like they've been like lubing up the speed of the game as you go along, and it's finally at full, you know, lubrication, and everything's just like frictionless. It's just like I went through this entire game 3 times to play it. I played the game has 3 different difficulty levels.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of like frustrating that the last level is the first level should be the seamless, smoothest, you know, fastest level.
Honestly, I mean, the training is the thing you should play first.
Oh, I love we'll get to the training. I love the training. Okay. Yeah. Josh, do you want to talk about just like the presentation of the intro first? Like, cause you like, let's go back to the early 90s where you know, it's Christmas morning. We just got a new Super Nintendo game called Star Fox. We put the cartridge in, we turn the TV to channel 3. Then I think we got to get our parents to help us figure out how to actually turn on the game system. And then, you know, dad's hungover and all this stuff. It's, you know, I hate Christmas, but I love Star Fox. So what happens when the game comes on? You get this great cinematic.
Really, really beautiful cinematic, really beautiful sound, ripped straight from Star Wars. And who else has used that looming camera below this massive starship?
Star Trek the motion picture did this amazing I don't remember the actual runtime, but people would like exaggerate and say they spend 30 minutes just doing like a 360 view of the Enterprise at one point. And they just show you every inch of the ship, and it's just like it's if you're into like model airplanes and stuff, this game is almost masturbatory.
And this isn't, maybe it's not quite the same as like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but
I don't think they reached the artistic accomplishment of Stanley Kubrick's like landmark film.
No, not
Star
quite,
Fox.
but like that informs Star Wars, which informs this. I mean, honestly, the big difference is Kubrick willing to just let a shot sit, and this is like, we're selling this to 12-year-olds. We got to keep moving. It's really the only difference. But like, you could have let this shot linger, right? And you have Corneria framed up as some ships are coming out and going into it. Very ominous music playing. It's running again here. I'm just going to let the video viewers see it one more time. And if you keep playing, and you will probably get to the end of the first level, probably your first playthrough. First level's not too hard. and you're paying attention, you go, oh, that was the boss. So it's you're watching the beginning of an invasion of the home beautiful blue planet. It's a really good setup. It's in 10 seconds.
It's very reminiscent of the opening scene in A New Hope.
Yeah.
You've got the Star Destroyer and then the whatever Leia's ship is called. And yeah, you just see this small ship being completely dwarfed by a massive battleship. And it's polygonal, it's crude, but it's effective. Corneria, that's the planet that we see in the background, big blue planet. It's the first level in pretty much every Star Fox game. Mm-hmm. We should say that as we move as we continue in our Star Fox discussion, Star Fox 64 is essentially a remake of Star Fox SNES. So if you're a guy that likes to really take in lore and you like to see a story progress, you don't really get that between Star Fox and Star Fox 64. Mm-hmm. But this is setting the foundation upon which the entire series is built. Again,
tech demo.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Tells the story that this one is setting up and builds the world a little better.
There's the main story of this game is that Andros, the evil orangutan, is who's a mad scientist who's been exiled to Venom, which is on the opposite side of the Lilat system from Corneria. Andros is invading Corneria. He wants to take over the Lilat system and become the ruler of the galaxy. And Star Fox is a mercenary team that has been brought in to repel Andros's forces and help Corneria maintain its independence.
That's a lot of lore that you drew from. How many words of text do you think are in this game?
Probably
800, 300.
Yeah, that's generous. Even
3 to 800, 3 to 500.
I was gonna be like, I don't know, 50 words. Yeah, no, you're probably closer than I am. It's a lot is inferred through this game.
Yeah.
But yeah, you play as Fox McCloud, the leader of Star Fox. Let's get into the game, I suppose.
Yeah. I was going to try to show people briefly one more time, okay, after we get that great overview, we get that boom, 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 and we get
title screen.
These sprites of our team,
yes,
just bold right there in your face. Great music contrasting this tough looking team of animal people, anthropomorphic animals, and so side note, I'm managing 5 screens and the attention of my cat, who, if I don't give her attention, will eat and destroy my computer.
Yeah, I'll share this photo on our Instagram so you can see how the sausage is made here at Camp Video Games.
So I apologize if I feel a little distracted at times. The screens are fine. Adding in the cat and making sure she doesn't destroy anything is really where it gets complicated.
Right, you can listen back to an episode where the cat literally destroyed Josh's laptop during a recording.
She's trying to munch on a cable right now that's plugged into the laptop because I'm not paying enough attention to her. Go get that. Okay. Anyway, she's going to start biting me for a minute. But the initial triumphant burst of music.
Yeah, great music.
It's 6 seconds or something. And then you just get this nice ambient outer spacey music that will just kind of linger and loop until it sends you back to that attract mode cutscene. I just love the opening of the game.
Yeah,
but now let's get into some gameplay.
So you want to talk about the training level first?
Training mode.
Training modes are always straight. I feel like anytime I play a training mode in a video game, it's unless it's Breath of the Wild, where the training level is seamlessly incorporated into the gameplay as a whole. If it's not like that, I always feel like training mode is kind of like purgatory, where you're not are the things that they say in training mode, is that supposed to be canonical? Is it what is real?
Right.
Who am I?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I'll add is if the training mode of Star Fox is canonical, it's why in the heck is this guy the head of the team? Because
you suck.
Yeah, because your team is crushing it.
Yeah. Right, because you do this great shadow, like where you're supposed to stay in formation.
Impossible.
And if someone can do that, they have probably poured hundreds of hours into this game.
Yeah, I think I watched like a Tazbot video of it.
Yeah.
And even that was just like not 100% pixel perfect.
Wow. Tazbot, if you're not familiar, that's a tool assisted speed run bot, which robots are already taking our jobs. Don't let them take our fucking games from us too.
So yeah, you could see if you're in the video mode, my first attempt at it is on screen and it's brutal. So again, why would this guy be the head of the fleet?
Because he's got spirit and his dad used to be
nepotism.
in charge. Oh no, Fox is a Nepo baby.
Nepo baby alert.
Oh,
we need a Nepo
no.
baby button.
Yeah.
It's the second time it's come up in like the past 4 episodes.
Oh boy. Well, it's just because our parents didn't accomplish shit.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't mean to speak ill of your parents. I more speak of my family.
But yeah, you do some ring flying. You get to practice your guns. They teach you a barrel roll. But it's brutal. It doesn't, for me, it does not make me excited about the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Trading is supposed to show you how good thing. I like a trading mode where they give you like all, like if it was like Doom or something, and they give you just like all of the guns, and they're like, have fun, play around with it. You're not gonna have it for next level, but something along those lines where it's like, oh, you get to see how powerful you can get. Mm-hmm. I know you haven't played much of it or at all of it, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Mm-hmm. The game starts with your character being at full power. They've got like all of the abilities, the best armor, and all this stuff, and then they run into the Grim Reaper, who's just called Death in the game. I mean, whatever. And Death takes away all of your power, and then you're back to square one. So you get to see how good things get, and then have it taken away. I think that's a good way to intro you to a game. With Star Fox, they're just like, yeah, like you're gonna have a hard time.
Like, by the way, you're gonna be fighting this tooth and nail all the way.
Yes. Let's talk about the characters.
Well, let's stick on this a little bit longer to talk about like the controls, the major.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Downfall of the game. So like placement wise, everything's fine. The problem is,
to be clear, we're playing this on Switch Online, so that is also it's not, we're not using the native controller, but the layout is similar enough that you can get an authentic experience.
Well, that's actually worth bringing up because I discovered that the Switch Online Super Nintendo, whatever they call that, like Super Nintendo app, it has really bad lag input on top of how hard this game is already to control. The way I discovered this is my sister's family was in town a few weeks ago, and we were like, oh, Super Mario World, that's like an accessible game for like my 6-year-old nephew. Let's start there. And like me and my sister are like talking big game. I'm like, yeah, by the way, dude, I can beat this game in like 15 minutes.
Right.
And
that's a game you put a lot of time into.
I died literally on the first enemy because there's lag input. So it's just not what I'm used to.
Right.
And I was like, something feels weird. And then my sister, she's like, I'll put her at the level of she knows to hold Y most of the time. That's like her skill level.
That's a huge step up from my sister who never could.
Yeah,
understand
she's not like move her arms with the controller kind of level. And like, so she took a couple turns and she was like, oh yeah, this is really hard. Something's off here. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Were you playing with your Pro controller, or what's your hardware here?
We were using the 8-bit DO, my ultimate whatever Bluetooth wireless, and a Pro controller.
So you're
Switch
using
Pro
third-party stuff?
Oh, I was using the Switch Pro controller too.
Okay.
And
I was about to let my beer gut out and start talking about first party only, baby.
No, dude, the 8-bit DO ultimate wireless Bluetooth, get it? It's great. It's the best controller I've ever owned. But yeah, it was rough. And this was after I played Star Fox on the Switch app.
Yeah.
And I played levels 1 and 2 that way. And yeah, I was just fighting the whole freaking time. So then I was like, I'm going deep on this. I started looking for frame rate fix patches. So I found some 60 FPS patches that you could patch the game where they had made it run at 60 frames per second in different ways.
This is now off of the Switch, right? Are you talking about emulation?
This is now I'm talking about an emulator.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they only ran on the native SNES 9X app, which I just don't like. Long story short, okay. This is a bigger conversation worth having right now.
Yeah.
That at this moment in gaming, everything was about graphics, 3D, 3D.
Yes.
And we'll talk more about this with like Donkey Kong Country. And then, if we revisit more like mid 90s stuff, it's a conversation worth like having that. And there's like still like some extremely like online console gamer holdovers who are like graphics, man, graphics, ray tracing, lighting, whatever, and it's like, no,
it's all holdover from
about smooth frame rate.
This is all holdover from the console wars.
Yeah, exactly. And this was like peak of it. This was slanting up towards the peak of it. Is this era. And a very good example of why it's all about like smooth play and frame rate first was Final Fantasy 16 came out a few months ago, and it only has 2 graphic modes. It has performance, which is 60 frames per second, and graphics. So I played back and forth with them for about 10 minutes when I first started, and the graphics mode, I was like, I don't know, looks about the same to me.
Yeah.
And then I switched to performance mode, which is a quote compromise on the graphical quality, but gives you 60 frames per second. And I was like instantly like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The fact that it feels good is an important factor, I think, inversely into the graphics as well. And this game sacrificed all of that for 3D.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I will always sacrifice graphics for playability. Like I remember playing Doom
Doom
on an old computer, bad hardware.
Yeah.
And I just like let's bump it all the way down just so like I can get that sweet movement. But it was it's never like I don't need to immersion for some people means it needs to be as lifelike as possible. That's where we are today with like VR and the kind of direction that video games have taken.
I'm just gonna say those people are objectively wrong.
Be sure to subscribe to our Patreon if you disagree with us. Patreon.com/camvideo.
I'm telling you, I think I know enough of those people from Twitter. They wouldn't even like this show. The people listening to this show, they're on our side. You're on my side if you're listening to this show.
Well,
I believe in you.
You heard it here, and that's all that matters. As long as we're talking to an echo chamber, it's fine. Star Fox is a video game of its time. It prioritized what was in fashion at the time instead of the legacy is a game that people want to keep playing. Mm-hmm. But as Star Fox Super Nintendo stands, it's really just for people seeking that last bit of nostalgic dopamine that you can like derive from your like kind of fucked up childhood, or it's completionists who want to have the full breadth of knowledge of Nintendo's library.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people aren't like, oh, you got to check out Star Fox for Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
They will, however, probably say that about the next Star Fox game that was officially released in the 90s.
Right.
We don't have to get into Star Fox 2.
That'll be another episode. Yeah. Star Fox 2.
We're not going to talk about Star Fox 2.
I should have played it a little bit just to see if some of these things were fixed. But
okay, we'll talk about Star Fox 2. It's great. It's actually a very good game. They released it officially. I mean, there was a leaked, emulation, a ROM of Star Fox 2 that leaked in the early 2000s, I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I dabbled with it before it came out on Switch.
And it was
and
officially
it came out
released
on
for the Super Nintendo Mini or whatever whatever
Right.
that is. SNES Classic, I think is what they call it. And then they subsequently made it available for Nintendo Switch, Super Nintendo Online. Good game. It's just more. It's a bit more polished. It's I feel like there's a lot less lag in the total gameplay, and there's a lot more free range of movement. It's there's a lot more they call it in Star Fox 64 all range mode, which you don't really get in this first game here. But
Yeah.
Star Fox it was fun for me to go back to and to like play through with intention, because I played through all 3 difficulty levels. So that's one of the fun things about Star Fox that we can let's get into the game now, where it's you have predestined paths. So three different paths that you can take.
Well, before we go to that, can I just wrap on like the whole frame rate thing? Because I did.
Right. Sorry. Yeah,
I did try out all these patches. There were 2 that like they explained the math of how they tried to make it 60 FPS. And those I was like, I'm still not. It feels better than the Switch, but I still wasn't like, this doesn't feel 60 FPS. And then there's one where literally all they did was triple the speed of the game.
No.
And because the game runs at 20 FPS, which is extremely low.
Yeah.
Like most games run at 30, film at 24, or games at least 30, if not 60. And honestly, that one is beautiful.
Really?
If you can have it, if you can handle it. You sacrifice, like, it cuts off a lot of sound effects because the video is way ahead of the sound. And it's very hard because you're going so fast, but the controls feel so good.
Nice. That's interesting.
I got through like 3 levels of it before I was like, okay, I'm just not good enough to do it this way.
You recorded some side-by-side of gameplay footage. We're not going to share that here, but maybe you can find it on our Instagram. We'll upload
I think that was between like a 30 FPS and a 60 FPS patch or something. I don't remember what I had going there. So that's the bottom line of sort of the graphical handling, I don't know, within the game. Now we can dive into the gameplay, the story, all that good stuff.
So what you're saying is that fans took a Nintendo property and they made it better, and Nintendo refused to acknowledge it, and they still just released the same thing, that it was not improved at all?
They actually made it worse.
Oh no.
They actually made it less playable when they brought it to the Switch.
Let's talk about our new best friends, Fox McCloud, Peppy Hare, Falco Lombardi, and Slippy Toad.
Yeah.
AKA Star Fox. Where
right,
Star
baby.
Fox? No voice acting in this game. Oh, no, that's not true. There's
a couple lines.
very primitive voice acting in this.
Which was another sort of mind blower.
Yes, yeah, for a Super Nintendo cartridge.
Just to hear what's the General Pepper? Is that his name?
Yes.
Good luck.
Yeah, and at the very end of the game, he congratulates you. He's like, I forget his specific wording, but you're just like, is that a dog talking?
Yeah.
I want to talk about what the R-Wing looks like, first and foremost. The R-Wing is your ship that you fly throughout Star Fox. I really like spaceship designs. Like, you know, as a kid, I was obsessed with Star Wars, and I collected a lot of the models of different spaceships from the series. And Star Fox really it embraces, like, every enemy gets its own little spotlight during the credits of the game, and you get to the full picture of these fun little models that they have. But the R-Wing, it's gray and blue. It's very sharp. I think it looks to me it looks like a paper airplane. It looks like something that you could origami pretty easily.
Yeah, it looks like a paper airplane that, like, the kid who had the sickest origami skills came up with.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that, like, Shigeru Miyamoto is really good at origami. It just seems like something in his wheelhouse. So The R-Wing, I want to go through just like as you play, there's a couple of different power-ups that the R-Wing can get, but also some damage that you can incur that will really drastically change the quality of the gameplay. So,
which with modern tools, if you lose anything, just rewind that bad boy.
That's right.
Not worth your time.
You start off with a single laser. It's fun though. I didn't really realize this because I tend to be a button masher when it comes to these types of games. But if you just hold the fire button, your R-Wing shoots a 4-round burst, which is like actually quite useful if you're like shooting at an enemy. You want to lead. You want to shoot in front of where they're going. This is like I learned this when I was like learning how to like duck hunt as a kid. Not Nintendo duck hunt, but like shooting ducks. You shoot in front of where they're flying because it takes a little bit of time of bullets. The shotgun shell, it takes a little bit of time for it to get exactly where you're going, depending on the velocity and the powder charge that's propelling the projectiles. It's about timing. Shooting accurately does not mean having your crosshair directly on the enemy most of the time. It means you're leading, you're anticipating where they're going.
And then in this game, given all the issues we talked with frame rate and lag, also a little bit of luck if you don't know where that happens.
That's right. In terms of power-ups, you can get a dual laser, which makes it twice as easy to hit an enemy. And then there's also an additional power-up that is like the supercharged laser, where it shoots like balls of energy instead of these little laser bolts, and that's super satisfying.
We as youths, any sort of projectile, like spherical projectile like that, there was just something in the zeitgeist that we knew to call that a plasma beam.
That's right. That's right. I think Empire Strikes Back might have, because those are proton cannons, the ones that they shoot to take down the Star Destroyer shields. Or is it what does they do? They shoot the Star Destroyers from Hoth with I think they're proton cannons.
Yeah.
And that allows them to then target those little balls on the top of the Star Destroyers. There's also like in Star Fox, there's straight up Star Destroyers in the Space Armada scene. Level. Those are Star Destroyers.
Yeah.
We're just like, Nintendo is so litigious. They steal a lot, don't they, though?
They sure do. Yeah, I talked about that in my playthrough.
They're inspired. They allegedly steal. In terms of the damage that your R-Wing can incur, and we'll just get this out of the way before we start talking about the levels. You can lose a wing, which then, like, if you had dual lasers, no more. And then you're completely hobbled. Like, your maneuverability is way off. Everything sucks, and you just start the game over. Playing Switch Online, if you double tap the shoulder buttons, it'll bring up the ability to rewind. And it's not even Tears of the Kingdom, and you can do the rewind stuff. Hey, campers, I finally started playing Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't really talked about it that much with Josh, just because he's being very respectful of spoilers, because I don't know what's going to happen. But I just looked. I didn't know how to find out how much time I've spent on a game, but I've spent 80 hours already on Tears of the Kingdom.
Excellent.
Anyway, if you lose your wing, just press those little shoulder buttons and just go back until you got it, and then do it differently. Yeah. And with a lot of this game, it can be a bit of a trek.
Yeah.
Without those modern tools,
or maybe you still live in 1993. And this cartridge, you got it for your birthday, and it's the only game you're going to have till Christmas. God bless your heart. Just keep retrying and replaying the same parts over and over and over again until you memorize, where's that lag happen? How do I have to compensate for it?
Practice makes progress.
The only way to ace this game.
And that's how a lot of people treated this game, where it's a test, and you want to get the best grade.
Yeah.
At the end of every level
of dexterity and patience.
Yes. That's a good way. So Corneria, first level of the game. No matter what route you take, you're going to start on Corneria.
Yes, sir.
This is the home base of General Pepper, and Corneria seems to be like that's the Earth of this planet. Everything else seems to be like an uninhabited outpost or like a base or like Corneria seems to be the hive of civilization for this planet. And Andros's forces are they're doing a Pearl Harbor here on Corneria.
They sure are.
So every level is prefaced with a little dialogue box from Pepper, who will discuss where Fox's team is going and maybe what they should look out for in that level, what their mission is.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like framed like it's like a video call, right? Like, because like as the game plays through, whenever your team talks to you, their head bursts up in a little transmission.
Yeah.
And
I envision they have like a heads up display sort of like in their side window that like when somebody's talking to them, that's where it,
Yeah, I figured it came up in their little Super Saiyan scanners.
Or that, yeah.
Thing.
But they're not wearing them in their like photos that pop up.
That's weird.
Yeah, right?
Huh. But so Corneria is like, with these level designs, everything is so rudimentary. It's hard to really get a sense of atmosphere from these levels because it's more about the spectacle of the gameplay.
Yeah, there's a few standouts, but
there's some
Corneria is
great stuff in this.
Corneria is it's green and blue.
Yeah. It might just be vanilla ice cream, but there's some sprinkles on top.
Yeah, and I think there's like some nice environmental storytelling through like depending on which difficulty you're playing, it's slightly different. But there are like these walking mech robots that are either like stealing structures or I don't know, like installing things to fight you.
Yeah, I always think
that
of it.
You can stop along the way.
It reminds me of like in siege warfare in like medieval times. It's like when soldiers would like break into a place and then they would start building a trebuchet to like to then further attack the inside of wherever is being sieged.
Yeah, so there's some nice little touches to like do some world building in it. And it was also in this level that I first discovered that the like music and sound design really crushes it. And you'll hear like some like Koji Kondo-esque vibes in the music, but he didn't actually do the music. He did the sound design.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which I don't know if this was the first time they did that, but it's really nice. One of my favorite effects is the way you'll get that swooshing sound if you go like close to an object or a surface.
Oh, cool.
As like an indicator of like it's almost like a warning and like a nice little build out of the
like the air velocity is
like
creating
whoosh, whoosh.
That's super cool.
Yeah, that's really good.
You're good at noticing these audio things better than I am. I have horrible tinnitus, and I just mostly hear.
Yeah. And since we, for the video viewers, one of my runs is up on screen. I guess we can jump right to the boss here.
Oh yeah.
You're fighting that guy that you saw in the opening cutscene.
Right.
Looms overhead and then is extremely easy to defeat if you have the twin blasters.
So I did this fun thing of like, I looked for a strategy guide for Star Fox. Here's the strategy guide for Star Fox. Shoot the glowing whatever.
Yeah. until you reach an enemy where that's not the case. There's a few that I don't know what the strategy was, but I eventually did it.
This game, the gameplay itself, you're piloting a ship, you're attacking enemies on screen, you just keep going forward. You dodge attacks, you pick up power-ups, you fight a boss, you go to the next level. And there's the only real decisions that you make are at the very beginning of the game where you decide which path to go down. And then there are certain paths, like side paths that you can take that I was not able to access in my gameplays.
Not in this one.
Yeah, I will get to the black hole probably as a discussion more for Star Fox 64, but it's just a skill test. Like you have to do some memorization. You have to be frame perfect run of certain levels, and then it gives you some bonuses. And
it wasn't for me.
Yeah, I tried, but I failed. So yeah. One of the environmental aspects that I like about Corneria, and that this gets brought up when like Shigeru Miyamoto, who is responsible for the character and story side, not the gameplay side as much, but more, he took this engine and then applied the Nintendo Touch to it. You fly through these pagodas in Corneria.
Yeah.
And those,
this is a nice detail.
That was, and it's reminiscent of like Shinto temples, where when you go to visit, you go through very similar looking arches, and that was a main inspiration for why to do Star Fox. Miyamoto is very much like he likes to incorporate. He's like like any artist, you take what you know and you apply it to your art, and that's a familiar sight for a lot of Japanese people. For people who've visited Japan's temples. And even with the decision to have Fox, Peppy, Slippy, and Falco, those animals are important in like their mythology. And they represent ideas that I don't know how to express.
More important, though, once he comes up with the idea, he checks in with his wife to make sure that she likes it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Kind of. I don't know when this started. I definitely know this was a major application to why they went the direction they did with the Wii, was Miyamoto like having this direction of like, I want something my wife could pick up and enjoy with no instruction.
Okay.
And so now it's kind of like a running gag of like, is it, is this there for because it's actually good, or because Shigeru Miyamoto had to check in with his wife and make sure she liked it?
Is it like, does he just do that? Like, does he just blame his wife for the Wii U's failure?
I would hope not, because that was overly complicated. That's not something a late middle-aged woman could pick up and understand.
Damn, that's funny. Okay, so when you're going through levels, this is like just some more basic gameplay stuff. As we just walked through Corneria, kind of, it's a planet being invaded. You get to some fun environmental storytelling, but the other aspects of the game that are going to be, you're going to deal with through the entire playthrough, your teammates, because you're not, Star Fox is a team. It's not just Fox McCloud flying solo. You got support. But in this case, support really means things that get in the way.
Yeah, it means more work for you.
Yes. When an enemy flies in your screen, you want to avoid shooting. Or I'm sorry, when a teammate flies into your screen, you want to avoid shooting them. They fly R-wing, so you'll see this little, you have to really keep an eye out for that blue and gray polygon, because it can get lost in the sauce pretty easily, especially when there's a lot of stuff happening on the screen. You'll be penalized for shooting your teammates by their health will go down. They also will require assistance every once in a while. They'll have an enemy on their tail. It's your job to shoot it as quickly as possible so that they don't incur damage, because that affects the final score at the end of the level.
Which, by the way, I had no concept of where that was coming from. Like, and yes, I did do like a lot of rewinding. Like, if we keep using my footage as we talk about other levels, you'll see a lot of me being like, nope, rewind, nope, rewind. But like, I always came out with like a 90 to 100.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even think I really killed anything. I was just wildly shooting. I don't know where the score's coming from.
There's when you get a score, for some people, they just need to have that 100.
Yeah.
It's just that impulse that a lot of gamers have now.
Yeah. But I just feel like this is another thing that in 64, we will see, this got so much more polished. You get a very clear understanding of where your score is coming from, some tools and techniques you can use to rack it up higher. Whereas this, I was like, I don't know. I guess I did good.
Yeah. I did not feel compelled to replay a level in Star Fox for the Super Nintendo. When we get to the 64, I think that'll be a different story for sure.
I got a lot of games on my plate, but I do remember how fun it was to meddle my way through that game. Anyway, that's 2 weeks from now.
Yes. So basically, if you shoot one of your teammates, they all have little dialogue where they'll kind of, they'll tisk you for shooting them, or they'll be like, hey, dude, careful, watch your aim, Fox, kind of stuff. There are hidden paths that can be revealed through skill tests that are like hidden in the environment. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to focus on those. It's more just about the bigger picture with Star Fox, because we'll talk through some levels from I assume, Josh, you started with like Route A, like
I went easy, medium,
the first
hard.
one it gives you.
Yeah, so next is Asteroid Belt, the first Asteroid Belt, which is your first starting in first-person shooter mode.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
Which I think was easier.
I think so, because you actually have a crosshair. Right. I completely forgot that for the third-person flight stuff, you do not get a crosshair. That is another improvement that 64 made immediately.
Needed that really bad.
Yeah, the crosshair makes a huge difference.
And so like this was like, okay, I'm kind of having some fun now, and I felt a little more in control. Yeah. Again, I didn't realize I was fighting some lag from the Switch version, but I don't know. I'm kind of just thinking like the rest of the levels, it's almost like, I don't know, do we just kind of blast through any standout details?
Well, let's I've got some
and I'll just maybe let my footage run it for chunks of
absolutely. Concerning the asteroid field, the way I would say to get the highest score in this one is shoot the meatballs.
Yes. Look for those big meaty orange meatballs and hit them.
Oh yeah. You got the aiming reticle. You're in first person point of view. It's just this is my favorite level of the game, I think, just because the control that the aiming reticle gives you is just that much more satisfying.
It's I think the best balance of control and difficulty in the game. Like it's sort of fun. Like there's the gray meatballs. There's the stale moldy ones.
Meatballs,
that you can't destroy. That you're doing some dodging around. So you get a little bit of maneuver, and it doesn't really punish you so much for like the fact that you don't have a physical view of your width.
Yeah, that is kind of they seem to give you some leniency with that.
Yeah, whereas like if you were playing in this first person mode on Corneria, where there's a lot of like you gotta rotate to make sure you dodge that building.
Yes,
you need that sense of scale. On this level, they kind of had some awareness. And then it looks like in my playthrough, I gave up on the first person view about halfway through.
I never even thought to change the perspective for this level. Anytime it gives me a first person point of view, I'm just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I think I was just kind of testing them back and forth.
Yeah, I assume you do that by pressing select.
Get the full experience. Yep, and I'm looking at the footage. I went right back to first person. Yeah, I just kind of wanted the vibe. I mean that's kind of the gist of the level. The boss is how would you describe it? It's like hard to describe the bosses.
That's the thing. We're about to get in the footage. It's got the gimmick for this boss fight is wait until they start glowing and then shoot them. This is one of those boss fights. With most of the boss fights, they can be ended with a single like bomb, like early. Like it can be if you get the perfect placement, timing, and you shoot that bomb at the right spot at the right time, you can wipe out the boss's defenses. These bosses can be defeated in like 10 to 15 seconds.
The aim and articulation on the bombs I found was pretty clunky.
Yes, agreed.
Pretty unpredictable. And then also like There's a weird thing the game does a lot. Like, another thing like we haven't really talked about with the controls, where especially in these first person levels, these like very outer space levels, where it's like the camera is jerking you to be in a certain spot.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, but my enemy's going that. I want to go that way.
Yeah.
And the camera's like, no, you're going this way.
I mean, that's so common with rail shooters, where it's like, I when I think about other rail shooters games that I've played, I think of like House of the Dead, Time Crisis, the games that way. It really is. There's like, we are going to tell you where to go, when to go, and if you want to get that little bonus, like you have to know exactly where and when to shoot it. It's it rewards repeat plays.
Yeah.
Like, and this game especially rewards it by having 3 different campaigns that you can go through, and each is unique as this gameplay can really get.
I think one way, aside from fixing things like frame rate controls, whatever, one way you could make this version of this game modernized would be, it's like once you've beaten a level, you can do stage select and practice that level.
That's a good idea.
And like just do sort of like a score attack of just that level over and over, so you can practice it. So then you can practice it for a full run without having to play all the levels up to it.
That would be nice. That would be really nice. So the next level, you have the Space Armada, and this is
back in that first person cockpit, baby.
Yeah, and this is where you find the Star Destroyers. It's pretty. I like feeling like I'm actually an X-wing pilot, and this game came really close to it. I know that gosh, did you ever play the Star Wars arcade cabinet from like back in the day, where you're doing the Death Star run and it's all polygonal? I think it's all wireframe graphics.
My only memory of that is in like Super Return of the Jedi, which was very bad. The mode 16 final level of that game.
That was cool. Speaking of like the introducing a young nephew to video games, I brought my nephew was 4 or 5 at the time, and I brought my laptop with a bunch of ROMs and emulators of games that I legally own, and he wanted to play Star Wars, Super Star Wars. And that is not a good first video game for a kid, because he's like, why is this so hard? I was like, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
Welcome to video games as we knew them. But back to this level, because of the footage that we're reviewing right now.
Yes, this is a great part of the game. Go for it.
This is really great, that it will force you out of the first person view to go into an enemy ship and then navigate your way through, and then take out like a core inside the ship that then blows it up. That's a real fun, like, I'm a space cowboy moment.
Well, speaking of Return of the Jedi, like this is literally going into the second Death Star.
Yeah.
I love going into the belly of the ships. And you destroy their core. It's always great. There's even a boss fight that's centered around that idea. Remember I forget which level it is, but you go into a core and then you have to shoot these like rotating weak points that like.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
It's
we'll get there.
Yeah. But the dodging of these like obstacles coming right at your way, it's with the graphics and the presentation is just so impressive. Having that like, perspective of like things are stretching out in front of you. You're in this tight space and like every little inch matters. Yeah.
It's worth complimenting, like, there were polygonal games, very like loose wireframe graphics, but not that combined sort of like color and sprite work and stuff as well as this game up to this point.
It was a pretty big success for Nintendo when the game came out. Like,
it looks good for what it is.
It does. And after playing it I went through every difficulty level. I beat the game 3 times in a row, basically. And I did get kind of used to the lag and the slowdown. Like after a while, I was like, hey, like I know what to expect, and if I just give the game enough time, and if I'm patient enough, I will feel like I've made some progress in conquering its biggest obstacle.
Not me. If we keep perusing through my footage in this discussion, we'll quickly find I just said F this. I'm just rewinding like crazy.
So after the Space Armada, I believe you go to a meteor. That there's like they want you to destroy a meteor space base.
Yes. I'm trying to see. Is the Space Armada? This is the one where you fly in circles for the first time. In the
that's the boss.
That's the boss of this one. Yeah, I do want to discuss this one. This was another point of frustration. This one on easy mode was like, I think I didn't have too much trouble with this, but it just, again, you just feel like you're fighting a camera that you do not understand.
Yeah.
But it's also like the early attempt at a all range mode type of vibe. Because technically,
it's a stepping stone.
The idea here is that Fox has flown straight into a enemy, I don't know,
spaceship
base kind of thing, and this is the core. So at first he's like flying circles around it, and then you destroy the shields, and then you like go back. I don't know, I guess he's hovering at that point, and you're just shooting straight at the core. So it's like, it's a cool, good attempt, good tech demo that's going to be improved later.
For sure.
Now, moving on. What's next?
I do believe the next level is Meteor, and it's it's in space. It's a meteor.
It's a meteor, man.
A meteor. What's the difference between a meteor and an asteroid? Because this isn't I thought a meteor. It's a meteor once it enters the atmosphere.
Oh,
like a meteor shower. But an asteroid is just a free floating.
That's a good point. Or is it a meteor? Maybe look that up, and I'll talk about the level as it plays here.
I don't want to piss off our meteor heads.
We might have an astronomy head as a listener. But this is a return to a level with a surface. So my guess is they thought like, oh, a meteor is different. Like asteroids are little balls in the sky. A meteor is something so big you can fly along its surface. That's what I'm guessing their thinking was. With this
definition of a meteor: a small body of matter from outer space that enters the Earth's atmosphere, becoming incandescent as a result of friction and appearing as a streak of light.
So they basically misdefined this.
That's okay. It's like the difference between lava and magma.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that's what like made them justify the name and the design. Is they're like, oh, I don't know, a meteor's just a really big asteroid that has big enough you can like fly along it. It's gonna have geography and stuff. Because they didn't feel like making a whole new planet. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, and apparently, an asteroid, it can be between 600 miles across to a dust particle. So it's like an asteroid is not big enough to be a planet or a celestial body as its own thing, but it can really range in size after that. So
yeah.
For the meteor planet, I mean, so as you go from level to level, like we said before, General Pepper will give you little like snippets of dialogue about, what your mission is. And this one, I believe you're destroying a enemy base that's being installed on this quote unquote meteor. I like the enemy that you like as you go right into this level. There's these cool like walking. They're not spaceships, but they're like walkers.
Almost like the ATST Walker from Star Wars.
They're a bit more insect in nature, it seems. Like the design is definitely derivative, but I wouldn't say that they're straight harping, except for the Star Destroyers. Uh, but yeah, not much to say about the meteor level. I mean, and like with a lot of these levels, like if you want to talk about anything in particular, like, you know, after this you go straight to Venom, which is a
Well, I think it's worth touching on like the boss of each level.
that's good. That's good. Yeah.
Because the boss designs are pretty unique. And this one is, I'm trying to find the footage.
That's
here.
it.
Spider Boy.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, one of the first ones where it's not just a matter of shoot the glowing part. You have to understand, like, if you're shooting pretty much anywhere, because it's like walking like a spider. If you hit a leg, it's gonna kind of like limp up.
Yeah.
And that's and it glows when you hit it. That you'll get the cue. Oh, maybe I need to hit every leg. And once you do, it exposes its soft glowing underbelly, and
that's where the meat is.
that's where the sweet crab meat is. You got to pull those legs out of the way. Yeah, so it spins at you, and it's
I've got to make a bit of a critique of the bosses in this game. There's some specific cheap shots, and I missed it before, but on the asteroid level, where you'll defeat a boss in its first phase, and it launches a part of its body at you in a almost undodgeable size. You have to go to the very corner of the screen to avoid it.
Yeah.
And that is a cheap shot. And that caused me to have to do a little bit of rewinding as I played.
I think for the most, I mean, from here on, if we go to my gameplay footage, you'll see a lot of rewinding from basically here to the end. But those are like, I still had some sort of muscle memory about. It's like I usually kind of had a sense like this thing has a big carapace that's going to launch at me at some point and would know. But that is a very good point.
It's a little cheap. It just feels a little unearned when they kill you that way. Venom. So yeah, how long do you think it takes you to play through the first like level? Like maybe like 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, as we've been scrubbing my playback, the easy mode, having, you know, enough thumb skills and experience in this game, like I did officially die one time.
Yeah.
And had to start the meteor level over again. I used a save state because I didn't want to use my plasma twin blasters.
Right, they're so good.
But I think it was 15, 20 minutes.
The plasma balls remind me of the tennis ball guns that they had in American Gladiator.
Yeah. So and the Venom level is a little bit of a trick that you start in its atmosphere.
Yeah, it's I think in every route there's like there's two phases to the Venom level.
Kind of like three.
That's right. Yeah,
atmosphere. Then we'll go to the surface. Then we'll go inside a
Andross's lair.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
What I really like about it is it does create this sense of a what's the word? Like besides just attack, like this is a battle plan. You know, we're gonna dive in and we're gonna break through their outer defenses, and then we're to get to the surface. I don't know. I think it was a good choice to make this like a multi-stage.
It adds so much weight to what you're doing. Where it's like, okay, there is our destination. We have to survive to get there, and then who knows if we'll survive when we get there. It's like we're just driving toward the most dangerous place in the universe, and what happens when we get there? Like, why, there's the only outcome is either Andross kills us or we kill Andross, and that is like for talking, we've just had several dozen hour discussion about Breath of the Wild, where as you play through, you can see Hyrule Castle with Calamity Ganon just circling it from pretty much any spot in the map. Mm-hmm. And to have the boss just kind of like leering and taunting you as you approach it, and always being, you've got to go to Andross's planet at this point. So it's like, it's the reverse, where if it this this started as you just repelling an invasion, and now you're invading as a counterattack. Like that's
and you have that sense of you can see the final goal in the background, like you were just describing throughout this first stage of the final level,
for sure,
which is cool. The boss, which is this,
it's like a serpent,
yeah,
like a dragon,
and
it's kind of like
into three parts. It's another example of like there's a little bit of uncertainty about like, am I hitting it or not?
Yeah.
Like, and you can see I got 100% score somehow.
Oof. Just got a
there was a rewind
in
in there that I tried to cut away from so the kids wouldn't see how.
Don't tell them that you're bad at games.
But yeah, so they were on the surface.
This is great.
Yeah.
I wrote just, again for the if you want a strategy guide for Star Fox. Dodge everything.
Don't hit shit.
Yeah, shoot
hitting
everything.
Stuff bad.
Shoot everything and also dodge them.
Yeah, it's so. And so this is again a place where like being able to like, if you can make it through once and like you're fledgling, like, oh my god, please just let me do a stage select of it so I can get better at it. Because there's so much like memorization. Like there's these massive walls.
Yes, and it messes with your mind. So yeah, just describe like you've got these walls where there's an arrow pointing on them, and
so hard.
All it means is that where the arrow is pointing, the wall is going to swing out in that direction. And the way that your movement is being kind of forced upon you, you want them to go in a specific direction. So if you shoot the triangle, that'll change its direction, thus giving you safe passage. And it messes with your mind because you shoot it and you're like, wait, which way does it go now? It just takes a little bit of like instinct mixed with memorization, mixed with just like confidence.
Yeah.
Which
is like really good thought.
It's great.
Aside from the fact that like it's the very arcade mentality to this game that like you have to play through everything else to get a chance to practice it again, and you're fighting like the bad frame rate and control.
Dude, this would have been an amazing arcade game.
Yeah,
like if you had what was the game Afterburner, right, where you're sitting in the jet. And it's the one that John Connor's playing in Terminator 2. Man, that would actually be a fun conversation for a future episode. We'll talk about just video game appearances in movies.
Yeah,
that was, back in the day, like before video games were as massively popular as they are now, where I think the video game industry is worth way more than the film industry. But back in the day, when a video game would make an appearance in a movie, it was just like, oof, I'm getting a freebie here. If you had a coin-operated Star Fox arcade sit-in cabinet,
you'd be eating up quarters. This game is designed with quarter-eating mentality,
and especially if they had the advanced like hardware to run it better.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and especially especially if you had a joystick and the motion with it. God damn, that would be a really good arcade experience.
Yeah.
Can someone please custom make that and send it to us for free?
Yeah, insane that this game was designed for the Super Nintendo D-pad.
Yeah, I know. I also have to say, when I'm playing retro games on the Switch, I tend to favor using the D-pad to get a more authentic experience. Not with Star Fox. I really got a better response from using the joystick than I did from the D-pad.
I had the same thing. If you go like watch the stream that we're pulling footage from, I think you'll hear me sort of go back and forth with like analog stick feels. Well, let's try the D-pad. Oh God, no!
Yeah. I think to talk about Venom, it's really. Also just like what this place is. It's such an ugly pea soup color.
Yeah,
it's just an ugly planet. And there's like lightning in the background. At this point right now, as we're watching the footage, like there's just like all these like it's almost like these construction beams are like sentient and they're like flying in front of you on purpose, or as if like Andros is like psychically controlling like all of the planet's resources against you.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about the Andros boss fight. But leading up to that, as Fox approaches, Andros comes up on his communicator. Like, just like you've been talking with Peppy, Slippy, and Falco in game, you know, their little dialogue box pops up for their transmission burst. Andros comes on, and he's taunting Fox over the communications. And that rules. That is, like, perfect villain stuff. I think when we were talking about a Fox in space in last week's episode, you mentioned that, like, when Fox and Andros meet, it's like when Bond meets the bad guy at the casino.
Yeah.
And in this case, like, it's some good villain building. Like, you just, like, he's a mad scientist and he hates you.
Yeah. It's like, how'd you break into my communications? And he just taunts you as
yes.
yeah.
He says, like, you've got, you know, your foolish efforts, and just, like, he's so self-certain, you know, like, nothing better than a confident villain, right? Like, someone who's completely, you know, convinced them that they're on the right path. This is, and we're going to get more into this, especially with a Fox in Space episode 2, about Andros's, like, motivations, because it's pretty hazy in this part of the game.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like he's just invading, he's invading the Lilat system.
Yeah.
That's all we know, is that he's trying to expand his venom domain over you know, the rest of the system. And most of the game is General Pepper is telling you to destroy his bases as they're under construction. And so as you get to the boss fight with Andros, this is I think what they sold the game. This is why they made the game. They wanted to have this face, this polygonal face that
can shoot.
He shoots,
you know, a couple dozen.
He's shooting drywall at Fox.
He can shoot a couple dozen pieces of drywall at you at once, and it's a bit clunky to control around.
Yeah.
But it's quite a graphical spectacle for the Super Nintendo.
A graphical spectacle. That is Star Fox in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And as we know, Andros is a sentient orangutan, but this is just like a human face approximation as you fight it. And, you know, this is though, in this game, shoot the glowing things. That is, his eyeballs are the first things that you shoot at. And, you know, you can destroy his eyes, and he will, in between your attacks, he'll try to swallow your R-wing by doing this. Like, get
swallowed?
No, I never got swallowed. And also, you know, and they improved on this, in the next game in the series, or, you know, in Star Fox 64, when Andros is trying to suck your R-wing in, my instinct is, and I know yours is too, is to shoot a bomb into his mouth.
Yeah, I tried that at one point.
It doesn't do shit. It doesn't hurt him. They learned their lesson, because I assume that, like, after this came out, you know, you watch enough people play this game, everyone has that instinct, you know, like, you feed it to Dongo bombs. Like, we've talked about this before with, I think in our, Va Rudania episode for Breath of the Wild, how, like, you know, when an enemy sucks at you, you throw bombs in its mouth, obviously, but it doesn't do that here. So Andros's, boss fight has 2 forms, in this, first iteration, where it's a fun polygonal face, and you got to do the eyeball shooting and the dodging of the drywall, and then he gets into a cube. It's a weird decision, where, like, they've already demonstrated that they can accomplish some pretty impressive looking polygon, like, face models, but then so you destroy Andros's eyes, and then a cube with Andros's face
on
just
every
starts
side
floating around. It's the weirdest dice I've ever seen.
And you get a solid 1.5 seconds that you can hit it square on before it starts this really chaotic movement where, again, like, you can still keep shooting. I think maybe you can technically hit it, but you're just fighting the camera so much. Like, there's no strategy there that you can implement. So
it's funny that we brought up Stanley Kubrick's 2001 because I even took note of this. It's like when I see anything with a monkey or a primate, and then there's like also like a giant glyph.
Yeah.
That the opening scene of 2001,
Right.
where they like, what is the glyph, right? Like that's the big question that a lot of.
It's the Zohar, baby. It's the source of infinite power.
It's some say it's the it's the spark of consciousness. It's once they touch the glyph, they are on the road to evolve. And Andros, he is a mad scientist who's intent on we'll say subjecting the system to his will, because he thinks he's evolved past these other creatures. It's all Darwinism. We're just talking about,
and he shows it, I think, through like my consciousness is in a cube, I guess. I have no need for corporeal form.
Future games really improve this experience, but you shoot the cube enough and he blows up, and then Fox escapes from Venom, and they're like, "Oh, thank God you killed Osama bin Laden. The day is won.
We'll never forget.
Mission accomplished." That's, I mean, the game is a fairly simple story, right? It's, Andros wants to take over. General Pepper sends in Star Fox. Star Fox defeats Andros, and quote unquote the good guys win. History is written by the victor.
That's right.
So let's maybe step back on the praise of the righteous path of General Pepper.
Yeah, what if Andros's goal was some form of human instrumentality?
Oh my God.
Where everybody lives in the cube together in one soul, one body, and there's no strife ever again.
I really was distressed by the hospital scene where Fox was standing over Slippy while Slippy was in a coma. Be sure to give a listen to My Sister Evangelion and Me, our sister podcast that Josh walks through every episode of Neon Genesis Evangelion with his beautiful, wonderful sister, Steph.
Can't go an episode or two without mentioning that.
We got to talk about
we got to bring up Ava.
Scene.
Anyways, yeah. So that's the easy mode.
That's the easy mode. It's not that easy.
It sure ain't, especially by the time you get to Venom if you're playing legit.
Yeah. But it just gave a breakdown of all of your scores from all the levels, Josh, and congrats, you did break a 90% on each level.
To be fair, by the time I got to Venom and Meteor, there's a lot of rewinding and stuff happening.
An A on a report card is
A's are A's.
You can
man.
Cheat and get straight A's.
That's fine.
So Route 2 would be the next difficulty level, and Route 2, if you're back at the level select screen as the game goes, it's the top level, the top route as it is. It starts on Corneria again, and it's a little bit different, but you've got some new levels here that it introduces. I want to talk I'm if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of run through these levels just because we've really addressed the major gameplay points that I'd like to get to. But the next, after Corneria, you've got Sector X, which is another base is under construction, and it's kind of a precursor to what you'll experience in Venom, where you're dodging construction materials, beams, and space debris.
It was actually, I think it's worth noting, at least in these levels, and as we hit them, I'll just try to briefly touch on where you see the seeds of Star Fox 64's improvements of these level designs. This is very similar to a Sector X or Y or something in Star Fox 64, where it ends up being done better. You could see in the footage, it's like, oh, we hit a point where there's a lot of beams moving. There's a lot of assets on screen. Oop, we're dropping our 20 frames per second down to 10 or 12. And it's just like a bit of a slog. But the the seeds are there. It's got good roots. It just need a little bit more time and hardware to simmer, you know?
The boss for Sector X is, I actually wrote the name down because I just liked it. It's called the Rock Crusher. And, you know, how do you talk about the boss? You shoot the flashing light. You defeat its first phase. It launches its chassis at you. Right. And it's just one of those. These boss fights are not, there's not too much variety in the boss fights. You mentioned the cool like star walking one that was a bit insectoid on the meteor planet, but you know, with what this game's offering, it's really not about variety as much as it's about, you know, constant action.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple more cool ones still to come, but yeah, a lot of redundant vibes throughout.
In the B route, after you defeat Sector X, or after you complete Sector X, the next level it takes you to is Titania. This is actually kind of this is where I started thinking about General Pepper in a more critical way. Titania is described as Corneria's resource planet.
We have to protect our colonized resources.
It's like the equivalent of we have to save the rainforest because Nestle has so many investments there.
Yeah. There's so much great land we can tear for cattle ranching.
Exactly. I just wrote colonizer much.
Yeah, but it is again the design.
This level has got some of my favorite visuals in the game. It starts as an icy planet, and as it's got some variety in the visuals as it goes along, because there's it's called a weather unit on this planet that'll determine the atmosphere basically. And once the weather unit, once you've destroyed the weather unit, or once it toggles and the entire level turns brown. But once we get to it, I want to focus on what is absolutely my favorite visual in this. There's like a super highway.
Is that this level?
You get it twice in the game, because there's also a Venom level where you see the super highway.
Right. I had that one in mind for sure.
But yeah, we're just watching this footage back, and like it looks a lot like Venom right now, like the weather, and I wonder if that's the point. Like Venom is trying to terraform Titania back to its atmospheric conditions.
Yeah.
It's yeah, again, not much narrative in these games, and there's a lot to infer. But that's why I'm such a fan of A Fox in Space, because they really just
flesh all this out.
Yeah.
Well, not all.
They furred it out.
Yeah. God damn it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this was a very nice change of pace. Most of the planet levels sort of take a stab at doing something uniquely fun and interesting.
It's a Nintendo game. They really prioritize like the experience, and to make sure it's not just total milquetoast.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how this level ends. Is this
Here's the
here we go. Okay. Yeah, the superhighway thing is so cool.
It is the most impressive, and look how smoothly that it's running right now too. It's like, for some reason, this is like making the game's able to perform this better, where it seems to be the most complex.
There's something they just really nailed the reactive motion of the superhighway above you.
Yeah.
That to really make it feel like you're destroying some threat underneath this superhighway or whatever it is.
It's super cool. It reminds. Do you watch? You ever see True Lies?
Not a long time.
There's a really fun chase scene on a abandoned highway that's under construction. It just brought me back to True Lies. It's a good movie. You get to see Jamie Lee Curtis do a striptease in that movie.
Hell yes.
Yeah, big hell yes. After Titania, you got Sector Y, and in this level, your R-Wing can get attacked by like these amoebas that'll like glob onto your R wing.
Yeah.
I mean, to me as a Nintendo kid, those are Metroids. Like they look a lot like the Metroids.
Yeah.
And this level introduces a stingray enemy that.
Don't shoot the stingray.
That's right.
Holy moly!
The game. So far in this game, the only thing you're not supposed to shoot is Slippy and Peppy and Falco. But now it's got an enemy that if you shoot it, it will punish you for that.
So if you're watching the footage, you will see the stingray comes up, and I think if I recall, I spent a lot of time sort of like rewinding and just trying to figure out, like, because I didn't understand, like, I'm dying because I'm shooting the stingray, like. So it's just like me trying to figure out, what does the game want me to do right here?
Because so far, yeah, this game it's like the game wants you to shoot everything. Yeah. And
so I shoot the hell out of the stingray. I'm like, what? Rewind. And then like I just keep trying to be like, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way to kill this thing? Yeah. What is going on? So I think like narratively what it's trying to tell you is that what you're supposed to do in this level is like protect the native life of this region.
Beautiful. Love it.
Right?
I love it. Yeah. I did not think that far into it, but I love that idea.
That's like the only reason I could think of for like, oh yeah, there's this one standout enemy you're not supposed to hit. And then there, I finally just ignored it and I was fine.
That is beautiful. Absolutely so great.
Funny. And this level is where you get whispers of some of what they'll use in the underwater level in Star Fox 64. Right. So there's these like, how would you just, they're like not crawfish. What kind of underwater animal is that I'm thinking of? That anyway,
like a lanternfish?
Plankton type things. Or like small squid-like.
Are you talking about the amoebas that I was just talking about?
No, the amoebas are different, which is also like a part of the underwater level that comes up in 64. Like this, you can tell was like they wanted some elements of this to work in the underwater
absolutely.
Level. Yeah.
I love the underwater level in 64, the submarine.
Yeah.
Anytime you get a different vehicle, it's just so exciting.
Yeah. So this was a nice. I don't know. I thought this was a nice little level.
Yeah, for sure. And
very difficult boss.
Yeah, you're fighting. It looks like kind of inspired by like a squid or I don't even know. Like, how do you describe what this is? This is why it's like hard to describe the bosses, because like you can't be like, oh yeah, it's a dragon, or oh yeah, it's like,
yeah.
It's like, oh well, it's like a triangle thingy with these little leg.
This is just pretty unique design. It's got like a bird body, but two tentacle arms.
Yeah,
and again, the fight is like you're fighting the camera and the boss. Of like, when can the camera frame it so that the target you need to hit, which are its arms, are targetable, and they grow back so fast.
Yeah,
it's hard. There's a lot of rewinds happening.
Hey, I want to talk about the rewind function, like, because like Nintendo has always had to deal with pirates, and after a while, like piracy can be a better gaming experience for some people.
Absolutely.
And
I mean, early on, like
yeah, well, because like I remember like back in the day, and like I got my first like Game Boy Advance emulator, and you had a rewind function and you had a speed up function. If you're playing a grinding RPG and you want to level up real quick, you just like press fast forward. It just quality of life differences.
Yeah.
Nintendo had to like counterattack that in some way, and that really meant like embracing certain tools that were just available if you're playing the game illegally.
Yeah.
And the rewind function, now that it's being officially incorporated into Nintendo's like releases for retro stuff, you're like, okay, well, like I just see it as them saying like, yeah, we get it. Like that is actually like the modders, the pirates, they make a good point. it is good to have this. We
Yeah.
don't need, and this is where it's coming into like the philosophy behind it. Nintendo made games difficult back in the day because they wanted people to feel compelled to buy the games rather than rent them. Because
and there was again like quarter eating arcade mentality.
that was how it started. That's definitely how it
that
started.
carried
Where
over.
you want the quarters to go in the machine.
I love that we're having this discussion as the footage of me dying over and over
Yes.
and over again on this boss. is playing.
Well,
Everybody go to the YouTube channel. It's,
give
it's
us a
worth
follow.
it's worth watching this episode.
please subscribe. Please leave comments. Please like it. I hate saying these words, but that's like a really important. You can help us a lot by just doing a few very easy things.
And it really does. I think advance or enhance the experience of the podcast.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. It's nice to have these visuals. I just think the idea back on like the difficulty and why Rewind is now an official part of these like re-releases is things don't need to be Nintendo hard anymore. And that's how they would phrase it. It's Nintendo hard. You think about like Ninja Gaiden or like games that were just like so hard.
And Ninja Gaiden being like one of the first like narratively interesting games that like probably 90% of players just didn't get to experience.
Yeah. Josh, I've got great news. There is a novelization of Ninja Gaiden.
Fantastic.
And I have a copy, and we're going to talk about it. And
We'll get there
in
someday.
a few months, maybe. But it's also really, for your sake, it's a very short book. Okay, I might even just take photos and give you a PDF.
Whatever. We'll get into it. We'll enjoy it.
Yeah, Nintendo games these days, they're not hard at all. Right? They're like they're made to be accessible, and like that's why anytime I'm playing like a Zelda game and I start to get stumped on a puzzle, which is kind of rare at this point. I don't want to say I'm a fucking genius, but Nintendo games are made so kids can play them and feel smart.
Yeah.
And empowered. And like, so anytime I'm like, oh wait, what is this puzzle? Don't overthink it. Like, Nintendo hard is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
And doing these, this is a 30-year-old game now. It's not going to translate to modern gamers, but they still want them to give it a shot. Give it, like we got this. It's just collecting dust. Like, come on, kids, pay $5 a month for the Nintendo Online.
Yeah.
And I think this makes these types of games way more accessible to modern gamers who don't want to play the same level over and over and over again. They want to just play through and see how it goes.
And accessibility isn't just about accessible to people who just don't have the time and patience. It's like people who actually don't have, if they have some sort of disability, neurodivergence, that like they just don't have the hand-eye coordination, dexterity.
Yeah.
It doesn't exclude them from experiencing the full game and the full story. For me, it was about time and patience.
Same.
I was using emulators in the 90s to play these games to be able to experience them.
Yeah.
I definitely illegally owned every game that I played. Nintendo, please do not sue me. But very worthwhile. It's interesting though. It's like now games will come heavily loaded with accessibility, especially re-releases. I'm thinking specifically like I'm playing all the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters.
That's right.
They all come with like a 4x experience boost, 4x gil boost, 4x ability point boost that's relevant to the game. And
These you can toggle that like on and off.
Honestly, that I think threaded the needle of like what I want for that series of games.
Yeah.
Because it takes away the tedium of the really high random encounter rate of those games.
Yeah.
Where you can say like, I want to fight maybe just enough fights to either like fill out my bestiary or just like learn about like the enemies of this dungeon. And then you can turn off encounters because you've been doing 4x experience and you're not under leveled.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to do it. But other re-releases they've done like 7 and 8, it's like God mode boost with just one button. And it's just like, you've got 9999 everything, and infinite money. And it's like, oh, okay, now I'm playing a visual novel. And one more like accessibility sample I'm going to give before we get back to kind of wrapping through Star Fox is it just came out about a week and a half ago as we're talking about this, and I was playing it when you walked in. Like, what's that? Sea of Stars? They have these relics that you can buy like early on in the game. And like one of the first few are like really cheap. And what they can do is double HP. And then they can do like really interesting and diverse things to combat. Like, oh, this makes your timed attacks way easier. This makes it so you hit for certain % higher damage at a certain rate or whatever. So you actually get to like decide the difficulty as you go.
Interesting.
I'm doing the only one I do is the one that alerts you if you've hit a timed attack. It shoots a little star, which is very, very nice. But at first, I was a little confused. I was like, am I supposed to be using these? Because there was like this difficulty jump where I was like, everybody's like 2-hit killing me. And then I kind of brute forced through and it evened out. But like, that's a new interesting take on accessibility that I think is interesting. And then there's still a market for very limited accessibility.
Very difficult games.
Like From Software with Elden Ring, the only accessibility option they give you is like their summons in the game are designed to like, you can get a summon. It has so much HP, so much attack, and it can pull aggro a little bit early in a fight until it dies, and then it's on you. And beyond that, it's just totally punishing.
Yeah.
So it's like at least everybody's making some consideration, but then also leaving it so that there are still games that are like old school difficulty if that's what you want.
This is why I think games should take the Tetris approach, because I play Tetris
of like scaling.
Well, I play Tetris when I'm taking a dump. I just keep a Game Boy next to the toilet, and so I'll load up Tetris. First, it asks me what level of difficulty I want to play on between 1 and 10. Just do that, like, because like I always go. I'm like, let's start at 7, and that's a good speed that I am proficient enough at. I can't stand playing on level 0 or level 1 where it's so slow. Like, I like the challenge, but I'm in control of how challenging it is. And if I keep playing and I keep getting points, then I will, progress through levels. But mostly it's just like, I want to have that speed as I do it. And like, just like make difficulty levels like selectable, I think is a good compromise for a lot of these types of games. It doesn't apply to a lot, like, and it might not translate proficiently, but there's things that can be done. To make games for everybody, and not just for babies, and not just for devoted, masters of the game. As you get to back to Star Fox, the B route, so the medium difficulty level, this is where you're going to see the highway again on Venom in the second phase. Is
it that one or the C route?
I got it right here. It's the B route.
Okay, I apologize. I don't remember playing the B route on Venom, and I didn't see it on my stream. We're scrubbing through that. It is sort of my notes to myself.
I'm almost done talking about Star Fox. I don't have very much else to say. Okay. Here, I'll just like give you the rest of the notes that I took at least.
Yeah, hit me with your notes on Venom. In the B route.
I'm glad you just selected this video footage, because if you bring that up to show what General Pepper says when you select level 3, he's like making note of how difficult it is. Like, it's an interesting, what would you read that out? I can't see it.
I don't have my glasses. You've chosen course 3, a good chance to take Venom by surprise.
Yeah. It's like
this is like, we're on the offense this round, boys.
Right. He's like, oh, he would not expect you to do this route because it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And in terms of what it offers compared to the other levels, it's just,
punishingly difficult.
Yeah. It's just more enemies, more things happening on the screen. I believe it's in Route 3 that has the worst boss fight in the game. Josh, you might remember this if you played it. You're in space. I think you're approaching the boss has just these very small. It's kind of like in between rail shooting and all range mode, where you're making these passes.
I think I know
at a spaceship, and it reveals its weak points very briefly. And if you miss it, you're just gonna keep going back for another pass. And it took me 40 minutes to play through this. It was so aggravating.
We're gonna see if, I'll touch on before we go to that one.
That's all.
This is a good one.
For Fox.
There's this one. Well, two things. One, you'll note this is my second stream. If you're watching the footage, and I just want to like comment on Nintendo's just lack of attention to detail and quality control on their I keep forgetting what to call it, like Nintendo Online, whatever. Yeah. That UI that will not go away.
I hate it. I hate it.
Like, you are killing so much screen real estate, and like on our video, it's just like I don't have it stretched out right. But
yeah,
like,
it's cropped.
It's just cropped weird. But I switched to a emulator for the other playthrough. Controls way better.
Yeah.
And also use the like scan line thing that looks kind of nice. Oh, and it has just direct rewind. Just a button for rewind.
Oh, I thought I was having a seizure.
No. But this boss was kind of cool. It shoots this like net at you that you can dodge, or if it hits you, you have to like barrel roll out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't see what level this was. I apologize.
We didn't really talk about the function of barrel rolls in this game.
And this is one of the only kind of like, it kind of works as a shield, but not nearly as well as it does in the next game.
Yeah.
But in this level, you have to break. There's like a net that catches you, and then those things you said look like Metroids.
Yeah, you have to do a barrel roll to get them off your R-wing.
Yeah. I just wanted to touch on that. I thought this boss was kind of cool.
That is cool.
Good balance of like difficulty on this one. But what was that really hard one? Let's see if we can figure out what level that is.
Yeah, I didn't make note of it. It was in space. I just remember that it was gonna have a black background, and it was just very frustrating.
Well, I'll jump through the levels real quick. Planet Fortuna, pretty cool. That it's another very sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? Very nature based, a lot of vegetation. So you get this diversity of ecosphere. And
the level, I have to say, reminds me a lot of Space Harrier. Did you ever play that? It's like a running. The graphics are very similar, where it's like you're running and things are flying at you, and then you can like it's like an endless runner type game, but it was like back in the day.
Yeah, the boss in this one's kind of cool. It's like this like Hydra Pokemon looking thing. Like, it looks exactly like a certain type of Pokemon. I can't remember. But it's got this massive tail that could just whack the crap out of you.
Yeah.
It's a two-headed Hydra. This was the one where I was like, I played it once. It was just dying like crazy.
Right.
I have no idea. Like, I don't even know what's hitting me. I don't know what I'm supposed to be hitting. And then I don't know if I backed up and replayed the level or if just rewinding enough times. I finally am just like, I'm randomly shooting, and it died so fast. I was like, I have no idea what the strategy was.
I'm looking at the boss right now, and I'm thinking about Pokemon. And I'm going to say it looks like a mixture between Articuno, Gyarados, Doduo, and Dragonite.
Yeah. So that was a weird fight. Because if you were watching the footage, it's like I was dying, and then all of a sudden the whole body becomes hittable, whatever. You can damage it and
vulnerable.
It goes down. Yeah.
This might be the level as we're going through. It looks like it's like taking place in space.
This is Sector Z.
Sector Z, and I think if I remember correctly, Sector Z in Star Fox 64 is where you fight the Gundams, like the little mechas that fly around.
We'll find out in a couple
Oh, I'm
weeks.
so excited to play Star Fox 64. I am so excited to play Star Fox. Like, I would say like this is like an amuse-bouche.
Yeah.
Like this is just it's wetting your whistle. Yeah, it's a tech demo. That's the perfect way of putting it. It really is a tech demo for 64.
Yeah, and there's this is a level I remember having a lot of problems with, like frame drops and just chaos. And I feel like it's the one with the boss you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where you're back in that merry-go-round. And it is
This isn't what I was talking about.
Oh, really?
No.
This was a nightmare for me. You're in this merry-go. It's the same as the one we talked about before, but there's there's like these added
laser chains.
There's like a laser chain to the shields that you're supposed to shoot down. I just looks like I reset because I was like, F this. There's like these laser chains you have to hit, and you have to like really finesse where you're lined up, and brutal. And then when the core opens, it's so short, and again you're fighting the camera. Eventually I figured it out. So let's see if we can find the one you were talking about being frustrated with. Next level is what do we got?
Is this Venom?
No, this is Macbeth, I think.
Oh, sure.
Macbeth is the next planet you go down to. And the big red planet before Venom. So yeah, this is like another rocky red planet. And is it another one where like the boss carries over to Venom is what I'm trying to remember. I don't believe so. Just seeing if we can find this boss you were talking about.
Yeah, I don't want to bring the show to a standstill trying to find it, but it's
well, we're moving through.
It's
say what we have to say about hard mode.
Hard mode is very hard. It's Nintendo hard.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's punishingly difficult.
I think like both my streams of this game are about the same runtime of about like an hour and 40 minutes. And I did easy and medium in the first one, and the second stream is all hard mode. Just trying to get through 5 levels.
Yeah.
And like using rewinds, all this stuff. It's insane. Would take an immense amount of patience for both the like glitchy bugginess of the game and replaying deaths to be able to beat it naturally. Unreal. So thanks for the accessibility, Nintendo.
Yeah, you did a job there, Nintendo.
You finally figured it out.
I think we're approaching it now.
Then we have the
approach to Venom.
Yes. This is the boss as you approach to Venom is this modular, because the actual level above Venom's similar.
Yeah, this is it. This is the boss fight.
But you have to keep flying over this Star Destroyer. I mean, it's a Star Destroyer.
It's a Star Destroyer.
Point blank.
Well, actually, it kind of looks like an A-wing.
Either way.
Yeah.
And it again, it's the camera that is controlling you more so than anything else.
Right.
And so I'm like, I need to hit the starboard side or whatever, and it's like, no, I'm pointing you towards a run on the other side. You're like, no, go.
So like the way the boss fight is formatted, you are making these you're approaching the ship. It's firing at you. You're dodging its attacks,
a lot at you.
And you've got like maybe a half dozen little glowing points on the top of its body that it's hard to angle your shots at it. And if you miss, which you will, you're gonna loop around and loop around and loop around. It's like looking for parking. It's like you're just like
the most tedious parking garage you've ever been in.
Yeah, it's absolutely. This is the worst part of the game for me. I did not have fun. You're doing a bad job in a game where this is what it sounds like sitting next to me playing the game. I go, fuck, and then wait, and then there's like an angry silence, and then it's just like,
yeah. I try not to do too many cusses when I'm streaming, but that would have been me. Yeah, this one was pretty bad. Eventually, I figured it out. Eventually, I got down to the surface of Venom, and Looks like, I think, then you're back on just a regular surface run with just the way more difficulty than you had last time.
Okay, maybe our listeners can help us out with this, because I was trying to find a guy, like literally, like I can't find a guide to tell me how to access Andross's true form in this game, which I saw some footage of it, and after you approach Venom and you get into Andross's lair, the head is shaped kind of like it's like a devil dog. It reminds me of Zool from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Like the evil dog monster. That's what like Andross's true form looks like, but I don't know how to actually get Andross's true form.
Yeah. So this is we're looking at footage of my end of hard run, and it's the same old fight, face guy. Yeah. So I didn't do it.
Campers,
I didn't even know there was one.
Right. Campers, if you can tell me like authoritatively how to access Andross's true form in Star Fox for Super Nintendo, like give us an email, campvideogames@gmail.com. Leave it in the comments. Do something to tell me, because I feel like, come on, we're doing all this for you. Just do something in return.
Yeah.
Not to be too expected, but
yeah, we don't claim to be completionist about what we do. We do our best.
We're just two impossibly handsome geniuses who are just, giving you our honest reaction to these games. So we're obviously not doing a lot of like history homework here. It's more just about talking how these games make us feel and what we think about the games.
Yeah.
That's the Camp Video Games approach.
Yeah. And like a game that's like maybe a little deeper, we might get into some more heady thoughts about it, philosophical thoughts, but there's just not a lot of that to Star Fox.
Star Fox, at the end of the day, it's a fun little, it's a roller coaster. It's like literally a roller coaster because it's on rails.
Yeah. Well, and I think what's fun about choosing this for this podcast is I can't think of many examples we're going to find where the adaptation is honestly probably better than the source material.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
Matthew Gafford, we really like what you did with A Fox in Space. You did a very good job.
And then not only is it better than the source material, but it's independently developed.
Yeah.
Is really impressive.
No.
So that's yeah.
There it is.
Okay, so I fought the final form.
I might have done it and just didn't even. I've been drinking a lot lately. So.
Okay, so on my video footage, we found that devil form. It's after you've done some damage to the cube Andross. It looks like it goes to this devil form.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's pretty sick. And like when you describe the devil form, I was like, yeah, that does sound familiar. So I did see it when I played this a week or two ago.
I feel like a complete idiot right now.
Or maybe I got it because I had high scores throughout because I cheated more than you.
Maybe.
I have no idea.
Because I'll say, at the end of the runs, it'll give you your average score, or it'll tell you the score of all of your levels, and then I added them up and divided them by whatever and got my average. For the B route, at least, I got a 93% average, which I was very proud of. For the C level, I didn't write down what I got, nor did I for the A, but they were probably around that as well.
Yeah, that's,
Listen, I'm not perfect. That's all. I mean,
yeah. But hey, man, that's the original Star Fox. It is what it is.
Which is also not perfect.
By no means, but there's legs. It's you see the bones are good.
This is one of the first episodes that we've recorded where I'm also watching gameplay footage. Which has been nice, honestly. Maybe I've been more distracted and couldn't talk as coherently, but
not good scores coming up, by the way.
What the aesthetics, you'll appreciate this, Josh. The Golden Saucer roller coaster shooting game. Looks and the graphics are very similar.
Yeah.
And the
Similar,
similar
yeah.
polygon based stuff. It's very reminiscent of that. And I also remember playing that. I played that to death, until I got a perfect score.
No, it's fun.
Well,
That's a good mini game.
I forget what the
a little slow,
prize,
but
you can win the because it's all toward getting a gold chocobo, I think, or maybe toward getting,
no, it doesn't have anything to do with the gold chocobos, but
is it maybe you get
Camp Video Game Season 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We should probably say we're going to.
Do we want to announce it? I don't know.
We're going to talk about Final Fantasy VII because they just released Ever Crisis, which we both downloaded, and then we couldn't play because when they launched it, they were like, "Oh, psych."
So then what happened with Ever Crisis is I saw people's reactions to it, and the way the monetization and the gotcha prizes are thrown at you. I was like, this is what I was praying would have happened. I don't know if I can bring myself to open it. So my thought is Ever Crisis has been released, and I think it's going to be like an episodic thing.
Fuck.
I don't think we're going to talk about Ever Crisis.
Okay, good.
I think we should talk about the original canon of the game as it was released in 1997.
Yes.
And nothing around it. I might, because I've played everything around it except Dirge of Cerberus.
Yeah.
And there's really rare Japanese
the portable
games that were only on a Japanese smartphone in 98 or whatever.
Yeah.
I might bring in little elements, but we will look at it as how would the target demo, which was us, 11 to 12-year-olds
That's right.
or teenagers in 1997, have received this game.
Yeah.
And I think in our release cycle, that'll be around the time Final Fantasy VII Rebirth should be coming out.
Now tell me what Final Fantasy Rebirth is.
Okay. So there was, why not end the Star Fox episode with a little bit of preview of something that's happening?
Yeah.
I guess in the release cycle is probably only a month away. Month or two, whatever. There was Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is the original game with some additional story content through leaving Midgar.
Yeah.
And Rebirth is from there to who knows what.
Okay, question
And
mark.
there were some huge upheavals in how the story might be told that happened at the end of Remake.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't know if we're going to get the full experience with the release of Rebirth.
They developers have stated every major beat, I think, of the story will be there.
Okay.
Things will be different. And there is a third part of that trilogy.
Okay, that's what I assumed.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, if I'm going to speak from my experience with Final Fantasy VII being a PlayStation disc, I had 3 discs. So
Yeah.
I think of it in 3 chapters.
Right.
So that makes sense for them to release it like that.
So my thought is we'll probably do a 6 or 7 episode series of OG Final Fantasy VII, focusing probably mostly just story.
Story beats, yeah.
Yeah. And then Advent Children, and maybe one of the novelizations if we're up for it.
Yeah, I'm super down. Oh, I'd also love to talk about the OVA.
And the OVA that fills in
Zack
some stuff that you experience in Crisis Core, I believe. Yeah.
I think that's right, yeah. So,
But in the meantime, come back next week for more Fox and Space
that's right.
coverage.
Episode 2, baby. I cannot wait to talk about this episode with you, Josh.
I haven't watched it yet. I haven't
not
played
watched
any
it yet.
Star Fox 64 since 1998, probably.
Oh, really? You haven't picked it up in adult life?
No.
It's so good.
Yeah. So I'm excited.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with a Fox in Space episode 2. I hope y'all come back and give it a listen. We are super excited to share our thoughts. At least I am. Josh doesn't have thoughts on it yet because he hasn't seen it. But that's the fun of it, is that neither of us are going in completely blind, nor are either of us complete experts. But that is just me whittling away at our credibility. So join us next time.
Well played.
Thank you for listening. Please, write in campvideogames@gmail.com. Give us a like, subscribe. Ugh.
Do all the things that make us feel yucky to say out loud.
Yeah, and tell your friends. We would love to get some new campers in town. But thanks for hanging out. It is always a pleasure, and I love you.
To enjoy this Star Fox credit roll for a little longer, if you're on the video, you should go subscribe to too. I said it again.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.